What is wellness?
I think of the image of wellness as like pure joy.
The important thing is for people to choose, like, what do you want to do?
Wellness are the things your grandmother told you to do.
When you really start to think about it, the answer feels more complicated. I'm Maya Feller, registered dietitian nutritionist and author.
And I'm Dr. Kavita Patel. We're the hosts of Well Now, Slate's new podcast on wellness.
Join us every Wednesday as we tackle that simple yet important question, what does it mean to be well?
Hi, folks. Just a little warning. This episode mentions suicide. There's a lot of healing and humor as we talk about this, but we really want you to use your discretion.
Edit audio.
So the phone rang, and I ran to my parents' bedroom to pick it up because, it could be for me. It could be. I grabbed the receiver, and I sat on the side of the bed, because the phone stayed in one place back then, which in this case was on my parents' nightstand, like a 1950s TV show. And it was for me. It was one of my semi-new female friends. And I have to say that because I was in this new stage of trying to fit in like I was supposed to with the girls. You can imagine how well that worked. But anyway, before this, all of my friends were boys. We laughed, we played football, we punched each other. There was very little drama unless some asshat was being a poor sport over losing a game of kickball or something. So I was taken aback when this girl, let's call her Jill, she skips all the pleasantries and she launches right into her reason for calling. She's like, I'm calling to tell you that we've decided. No, I'm already like, a collective we. This cannot be good. We have decided that we're not your friend anymore. Now, after this, I don't remember all the details, except I do recall a pit in my stomach, some tears, and then asking a bunch of questions about what I could do to win everybody back. I was 12, so it didn't occur to me to be all, well, fuck you then. Instead, I sat there and I wondered, what did I do? Why in one phone call did I just lose all of my friends? Hello, folks. I'm Robin Hopkins, and this is Well Adjusting, where I talk to people about life stuff, but not in an NPR way, more like we're at the bar, and we're having cocktails, and I am getting into your business sort of way.
Oh, we love a cocktail.
Oh, and producer Steph is here too.
Oh yeah, hi, that's me.
Today we chat, well, what happens when your best friend dumps you? Friendships. They are complicated, am I right? Our guest today is Becca, and she has been dealing over the last year with a major friend group breakup. And I have to say, what I think is so interesting about this conversation is that we talk, in general, as a culture, as a society, so much about romantic relationships and breakups. But I really feel like we don't spend a lot of time talking about the heartbreak or the healing that needs to happen when your bestie dumps you. So I'm about to say it. Strap in. We're about to go for a ride. Come on, let's get to Becca. Here we go.
What happens when you deal with a friend breakup or like a friend divorce? And how do you deal with not talking to a person that you talk to every single day and that you've been talking to every single day for years? And then in the long term, how do you build new relationships and trust yourself and your sense of other people's character and new people that might change or, make different situations better or worse? And how do you start trusting yourself again in your own sense of judgment?
It's such an interesting question and topic because I feel like we talk about loss from a sense of romantic partnerships, and we talk about loss in terms of death, but friendships are, they're the foundation of our day to day, right? I was single for a real long time before I met my lady friend, Mary. But, my friends were always, they got me through every breakup. They got through deaths of my parents. And so friends are such a big and important part of our lives. I think this is a really fantastic topic to be talking about. So I'm so glad that you reached out to us. But I want to first ask you to really tell us about the friendship and what happened to lead to a friend breakup.
Yeah. My friend group was myself and 3 other young women who were all in our late teens, early 20s when we met. We just clicked almost immediately. We were, all big fans of the same band, and that's how we originally met. We met at a concert. And
What band? What band? You have to share it. I hope it's embarrassing.
No, it's not bad. It's Bleachers,
yeah.
like Jack Antonoff
Yeah.
band. We knew each other online, like in the fan community on Twitter, and then we met on the tour for the second album and really just became extremely close. Like we had group chats, we talked every single day. We all lived in different states. Like at the time I was living in Michigan, and one of them lived in New Jersey, and another one lived in Indiana, and another one lived in Ohio. So we were all kind of scattered, but we really had a community around this band. And when they would tour, we would get together and travel for a week, like going to all of the shows. And it really became a really important friendship, and one of the most important friendships in my life at that time. And we were really excited to get back on tour, especially through the pandemic. Having them was really essential. That was a friendship that existed primarily digitally. We FaceTimed a lot, we called a lot, we texted a lot. So that was something that stayed consistent when in 2020 it felt like the whole world was sort of falling apart. It was really, really a lifeline. And I don't know what, especially that back half of 2020, would have looked like for me without having them. They were integral to my life. And then in August of 2021, we were getting ready for Bleacher's new tour. And a new person came into our lives.
Who's also a fan of the band, like a digital friend.
Yeah, who's also a digital friend. And she came into our lives, well, into my life specifically, and it really changed the dynamic of our friendship really dramatically, very quickly.
Yeah. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. Well, she and I, in classic gay fashion, became a little bit more than friends a little quickly. And she was very intense and very, now, looking back on it, I can see it as like love bombing and a little bit manipulative. But at the time, having someone who's super, super into you when you've been single for a while.
Come on, that feels nice. Come on, no, I like that.
Felt really, really nice. And I was very into it and really excited. And the first people I was telling about it were my friends that, also knew her from online. This was right when I had moved to New York. It felt like everything was coming up aces. New love, new tour, new city. It felt like all of the trials and tribulations of 2020, like I was reaping the rewards of patience and pain.
Yeah.
And it didn't take long for me to realize, like, it wasn't anything like negative about her at the time, but I just realized, I think we're better as friends. And like the spark kind of didn't lead to a fire, and I was very honest about that with her and with my friends. And at that point, they had all been introduced to each other and all knew each other. And she had like joined our group chats and had really kind of been embedded in our space. And she took really well to it, I thought. We went from a foursome to a fivesome pretty seamlessly.
I'm already getting some single white female vibes. Anyone who hasn't seen that movie, go see it.
Yeah. It very quickly became the difference between, this is Becca's, +1 to our friend group for the time being, to her being her own independent member of our friend group. And I didn't realize that me not being aware of what her relationships were with my friends outside of me meant that there were going to be or could be changes to our relationships. And that's kind of what ended up happening. She, over the span of that tour from, September to November, essentially, started hanging out with them all individually. And, you can't afford to, come to this show, I'll pay for your ticket.
Or to the other friends?
To the other friends. Or we need a hotel, I'll pay for it. Or you need someone to go with to justify going to this show, I'll go with you. And by going to this show, I mean traveling halfway across the country to go to, Alabama from New York.
In hindsight, it looks a little bit like the way you were saying love bombing in the relationship, like she's friendship bombing too, like trying to win everybody over real fast.
Yeah, and that's really what happened.
But that's with hindsight.
Yeah, with hindsight. And at the time, it was like, oh, she's so cool and she's so fun. She's a couple
Generous.
years generous. She's a couple years older than us.
It's also sometimes a red flag, by the way.
Yeah. In hindsight,
There's a
you
lot of
look
in
at
hindsight.
it and you see. But I, was so happy and so relishing in like, oh, everything's going great. We're all together now. We're on tour again, which we didn't think might ever happen in 2020.
Yeah.
And by the end of it, I realized that like there was a very clear shift. End of September, everything was good. We were all together. Middle of October, we are in California, and her behavior to me is really different. She's starting to like, make disparaging comments about me and undermining me and really making me out to be this kind of caricature of like a lovable, stupid oaf, and not like in a funny way, like in a Becca's an idiot and can't do anything kind of way.
Like, oh, there goes Becca again doing a dumb thing. Like that kind of, yeah.
Exactly. And it really was starting to turn from laughing with me to laughing at me from her.
Ooh.
I try to be a very upfront person and very not confrontational, but I'm not afraid of confrontation.
Mm-hmm.
I try to address things really directly. And so I pulled her aside and I was like, I don't like how you're talking about me. It's like doesn't make me feel good. It's not nice. And she at the time said, I didn't realize that you were taking it that way. I intended it, laughing with you, not laughing at you. Ribbing,
by the way, good on you for like being that direct. I think a lot of people have difficulty doing that.
Yeah, I feel like directness is really either a blessing or a curse, depending on how you see it.
Yeah.
And we'll kind of see how it happens as a curse a little bit later in the saga.
If you will.
If you will, exactly. But that happens, and then we get to the end of the tour, like back in the Midwest, around Halloween, and the exact same thing starts up again with her being really disparaging and really like kind of like playground insults, like we're 6 years old or something.
Ugh.
But at this point, it's not just her, it's everybody in our friend group like joining in, like, oh yeah,
Shit.
LOL, Becca is stupid and Becca's an idiot and Becca's like an oaf and all of that kind of commentary. And it was like really surprising and really, like I was really, really taken off guard. And it really, really started to hurt me to the point where I spent the entirety of the back half of that trip in tears. I was like sequestering myself to like sob on a street corner because
God.
I felt so awful. And they knew that I was crying and didn't do anything about it. And I was just like sobbing to the point where we went out to lunch and the bartender came around the side of the bar to give me a hug because I was like openly sobbing. And I was like, this stranger is showing me more empathy and more concern for my care and for my like mental well-being than people that I've known for years.
Yeah. Are you putting together that this all started when she came into the group? Are you putting that together at this point?
Yeah. At this point, I'm like, this can't be in like a coincidence.
Mm-hmm.
And it took a while for me to really understand the extent of it and like learn about things that were happening after the fact, because she and I ended up having a big conversation a little bit later. But after that point, it was really just like they started to just really ice me out and ignore me and isolate me. Like they didn't really want to be around me or talk to me in any way, shape, or form. And I started wondering, like, have I changed at this point? Like, I'm very as my therapist would say, I'm very self-critical. And I was like, have I changed? Am I, acting differently? Am I behaving differently? Like, am I the problem, basically? And this is really where it started with me questioning my own reality and my own perspective. Like I didn't know if I could trust myself. So I asked,
God, this is
you
almost
know,
like abusive behavior. You know, like when you're in a relationship and someone isolates people or, you know, makes you look at yourself and think, did I do this? Is, you know, it's like that lack of confidence is the first thing
yeah.
that starts to happen when a person undermines you.
Yeah, and there was like real you know how you can tell that people are like talking about you behind your back?
Yes.
I had that, but like like I could see it digitally. Like we weren't using the same group chat nearly as much as we were, but everybody was still on their phones. So I knew that they had a group chat
There was a sidebar that
without
didn't
me
include
in
you.
it. Yeah.
Shit.
And so things like that started happening, and it got to the point where I sent them, and this was like looking back on it, I was still really emotional and like probably could have done it a little bit more strategically. But that's just me feeling the need to over communicate all the time. But I sent them a big text in our group chat without her in it that had like not really been used as much because we had one with her in it. And I was just like, the way you guys have been treating me, to my friends, I was like, the way you guys have been treating me, I really not liked it. And like, I don't know if you guys like have just decided that you hate me now or like whatever has changed, but if you're feeling that way, like just say so. Don't do this like isolation tactic thing because I'm really sick of it.
Yeah, like let's be grown-ups. If you don't want to be my friend, don't slow fade me. Just have the balls to say we don't want to be friends. And P.S. maybe let me know why.
Yeah, exactly. And then I have a conversation with our former fifth wheel, who has now become the fourth wheel and booted me out of the carriage, so to speak. And she's like, do you know like how manipulative you've been to me this entire time? And I was like, whoa, what? Exactly. And she was like, you have been stringing me on this entire time, acting like you want to be with me sometimes and other times insisting that we're friends. You've been gaslighting me, and I've been crying about it to our friends and like really struggling with it. And I'm like, you've been struggling with it for 3 months and never brought it up to me one time?
Yeah.
We were formally, you know, whatever for like 2 weeks. I'm not kidding, 2 weeks. And then maybe a week after that, we had a little bit of a transition time, which I, you know, will happily own up to and be like, look, when you make out with someone at every given moment and then you decide not to make out with them anymore, you gotta like...
Sometimes you need one more.
Sometimes
all right. We get it.
Sometimes you lean in and then remember yourself.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Listen, it happens.
Right. And we had a frank conversation about that after that 1 week of buffer time, and it didn't happen again.
Buffer time. I love that.
You know, and that was 3 months ago.
Yeah.
And then there were like a couple of weeks where she was still pretending to be my friend. And for some reason I was like, letting her?
Well, because like, you don't know the full scope of things. And
yeah.
I mean, you strike me as someone who wants to believe the best in people.
Yeah. I realized a couple of weeks after that, like, I realized, oh, you know, you have like that sinking feeling where you just kind of have to accept like this person who I thought was my friend has actually been working against me the whole time to replace me. And that was really devastating.
So do you think she was talking to people about you? I mean, in that other group chat or wherever else? Like, so you think she's actively, or you know she's actively trying to...
I know she actively was. Now I know, you know, with months of hindsight or separation, you know, hearing from mutual friends, from hearing from people who were in the room when I wasn't, you know, both in person and virtually.
She was like insidiously trying to make you the bad guy.
Saying like a lot of things about me and manipulating her and emotionally jerking her around.
Tell me how it came to a head, or did it? Is there like an explosion, or did you silently step away? Like what happens at this point?
I It's funny, you were talking earlier about how we deal with grief and how we deal with loss in other relationships and other situations. I traditionally have a habit of when it's time to let go of someone, pretending like they're dead.
Oh.
Not like in a negative way necessarily, but just like
I'm
just like
closing
it's a
that
fact
door.
of life.
Yeah, I'm closing that door. I'm not letting you in. I'm not going to let you hurt me.
Exactly. And so I changed her contact name to DNR, do not resuscitate. I wanted to like have that as a reminder, like if she were to text me again or if she were to do anything, it'd be like, oh, DNR.
Yeah.
I unfollowed her on all social media platforms and everything just to kind of like cleanse myself.
All right, people, raise your hand if you have ever been personally exhausted by email, right? Same, friend, same. We're all so constantly inundated with email. And if you're like me, going through your inbox becomes less about responding to everything and more about just finding a way to keep tabs on the messages that really matter, like the ones from the school telling me my kids are in trouble that I get all the time. Anyway, that's where SaneBox comes in. Think of it as an EMT for your email. As messages flow in, SaneBox does the triage for you, sifting only the important emails in your inbox and directing all the other distracting stuff, you know what I'm talking about, into your Sane Later folder. So you know what messages you need to pay attention to now and what stuff you can get to like eventually after maybe a nap or, I don't know, a cocktail. It also, and I know I'm waxing poetically, but it has some very handy features like the Sane black hole, where you can drag messages from annoying senders that you never want to hear from again. Bye, friend. Oh, and it also has Sane reminders to ping you if someone hasn't replied to your email by a certain date. I mean, nothing like having to follow up on your follow-up, am I right? All right, best of all, you can use SaneBox with any email client or phone anywhere you check your email. I mean, come on. See how SaneBox can magically remove distractions from your inbox with a free 2-week trial. That's a deal. Visit sanebox.com/well today to start your trial, and you're going to get a $25 credit. That's sanebox.com/WELL. Go ahead, folks, get it. So you're trying to get away from her. What are you doing with the other friends? Are you saying to them, "Hey, you knew me first, and like, why are you not with me?" Or are you shutting everyone off and out?
They shut me off. So they all unfollowed me from
Shit.
our internet, everything. And like, I could tell, like, you can tell when a new group chat is made and you're not in it because the current group chats that you use don't get used anymore.
Right.
When people were putting things into that group chat, it was very clear they were doing it on accident.
Oh.
They would accidentally hit that one instead of the one they meant
like
to hit.
and they're coming in the middle of a conversation, so it was something else. Got it.
Yeah.
You're like a digital friendship detective.
Yeah. It's really a blessing and a curse the
Really
way
is.
that I can evaluate online relationships. But yeah, it was really, really, really challenging. And I had just started a new job and I was utterly heartbroken.
Yeah, because you didn't just lose one person, you lost a whole group of people. Like they all just didn't side with you.
This was my first time really having a friend group break up.
What did it do to you and where did it leave you? Because you started to touch on this idea that you started to doubt yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I have reopened my Instagram story archive to see exactly what my headspace was because I was posting like 10 times a day on my Instagram story, which I don't normally do. But I was like trying to pinpoint the reason of like what I did at some level because it had to be something that I did. Okay, well, I have become less anxious because I've been on Lexapro for a couple of years now, and my anxiety has
Shout
been
out to
under
the anxiety
control.
meds. Shout
Shout out to Lexapro. I'm so sorry I ever doubted you. But that's what happened is I basically said I can no longer trust myself without my anxiety constantly putting me on guard for social situations. So I stopped my Lexapro cold turkey.
Oh shit! And you're not supposed to do that.
You are not supposed
I'm
to
not
do
a
that.
doctor, but I do know that much.
Yeah.
Please don't ever do that, Becca, or anyone else.
Yeah, no one do it. It's really bad. You get super horrible brain zaps, and get super nauseous at best, and probably horrible, horrible things at worst.
Much, much worse things, yes.
But I was like, I clearly cannot be trusted to make relationships without my anxiety monster like climbing on my back and
do you mean by that? Do you mean like you needed your anxiety to be more of a watchdog? Like you felt like on Lexapro you were too open? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, like I was
Jesus.
too open. I was clearly too open. I was clearly too trusting of other people. I was too off my guard, like not being aware of what other people, because my anxiety really takes form in like being hyper vigilant of what other people are thinking about me at any given time. And clearly without that hypervigilance, I let in bad people. I wasn't cognizant enough of how other people were viewing me. And so I needed the anxiety monster back. So I stopped taking my Lexapro for like 3 or 4 days. And my friends all texted me that are also on SSRIs and were like, this, like going cold turkey could give you a heart attack. So stop not taking it. And I was like, okay, if I have a heart attack, I have a heart attack. Woo. And yeah, it was like every time that I tried to do something positive, like I watched a movie with one of my best friends and she was like, you're coming over, we're watching a movie, we're going to do something better. And I literally was like, watch the Blues Brothers with my friend, almost felt better, and then remembered the thing I love most in the world is gone forever. Because at this point, I was like, well, not only are my friends gone, my concert community is gone. My bleachers, like, community was gone. And
that was a lifeline for you during a really dark period of a global pandemic. So I think that and the combination of cold turkey without doctors' help, taking yourself off a med, is a really bad combination.
It was ill advised. I'm not encouraging anybody. I'm actually discouraging people. Don't do this. It's not good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just like was dealing with simultaneously losing these people that I talk to every day and like losing this community at large. Because I was like, there's no way I can go back to shows and see them there all being so happy and like having the best time ever, and like not only having a great time, but having a great time because I'm not there. That to me was devastating.
Right.
The next day I started taking my meds again and like posted a photo for proof to my friends.
You're not putting this out for everyone. You're putting this out just for your friends.
Oh no,
right?
this was like close friend. This was like close friends community. This is probably like 20 people.
Can you tell the mom and me was like, you're not posting this to everyone, right?
Oh
right?
No.
Okay. But I also think you were aware that you needed people and support because you don't put those things out there unless you're looking for someone to go, stop it. I'm here. You know,
exactly.
So I think I'm like glad that it existed for you in that way and that you knew enough to gate it to people who would comment and maybe try to help you.
Yeah, it was like I was really just like going on these really long tirades of just like how every group dynamic that I've ever been a part of would have definitely been better if I wasn't there, and like all of that stuff. And I was also pretty funny. I said, just got my flu shot, asked the nurse to just inject air. She said no, frowny face.
That's so dark and funny, but what do they say? Comedy is tragedy plus time. So there's been some time. I would not be laughing if this was yesterday. Just FYI, BT dubs.
Yeah, I mean I'm laughing now too because I'm like, yeah, she was not doing well. She had a great haircut, but she was not doing well.
Wait, I want to know, like, what is the situation now? Like, where's the anxiety monster now? What's your vibe now?
I'm on ADHD meds now, which is great for the anxiety as well, because it's helping me minimize my actual, needs of anxiety, helps me actually get things done. Back on my Lexapro. But really the thing is like, I spent a lot of time mourning, and it was the first time in my life that I really had mourned. I mean, I've had a lot of death in my life. I'm not a stranger to death, but I find that death is really easy to deal with because there's nothing you can do about it.
Right.
Which is part of the reason that I like to pretend people are dead. But dealing with mourning this was something really, really new for me. And at this exact moment, again, like, what is it? Like, close a door, open a window. Like,
Yep.
that is what happened to me when I met these people. And right at this exact same time, I met people who are now really good friends of mine because I started a trivia team. We've been going strong for like 9 months now. So it's been a lot of healing, but like in that process of like meeting those people that are now my really good friends, it was a lot of stress and a lot of internal and external doubt. I was like, I don't know how to talk to these people. Like, what if I say something wrong and then they don't want to be my friends
They think I'm a bully
anymore?
or they think I'm an oaf or
They think all of these horrible things about me. What if we become friends and then 6 months from now, one of them just decides to be mean for no reason? And like, I was still kind of new to the city and still like trying to meet people and make friends and have connections and everything. And it was really, really challenging and really,
well, you had to trust yourself again.
which I couldn't do. I fundamentally couldn't do. And I found a therapist like in January that really, really helped me deal with all of this and like cry about it and figuring out how to trust yourself when you realize that trusting yourself and like trusting other people got you into the problem that you were in before was like chicken and egg for me. Well, if I trust them and then something bad happens, then it's my fault and like things will be worse and maybe I should just never make another friend ever again. But I can't do that because I'm the type of person who needs community and needs people. I mean, like, I'm on a trivia team that is, pretty strong, not to brag. But I'm also like in a softball league and I'm also
Yeah, you are.
on a chess team and like I need group activities to function as a person. And so it just wasn't, while extreme, it wasn't a viable option for me to just never talk to another person again intimately.
But I feel like you're touching on something that's really important that I just wanted to highlight, which is that chicken and egg thing. Like, you have to get yourself back out there. You have to. You can't be alone in this world. I mean, you can, but I don't know, what kind of life does that bring you? But just like anything else, when you make a mistake, you have to just be like, okay, let me look back at it. Let me look for red flags that I can look for next time. Like, what can I take and bring forward? And then I have to start to slowly open myself back up because you can't quit just because it went bad one time. I mean, you can, but I don't advise that.
It's still a healing process. Like, I don't know how long it takes to heal from things like this because this is my first time really dealing with friendship apocalypses. And I know now that she has fucked them over in a couple of different ways in the months since then.
Well, I'll tell you what, the mom in me is going to say this. When all those people come crawling back, you know what kind of people they are. They're the type of people that didn't support you, that weren't there for you. And you say, no, thank you. Like, it's that, those are not good friends. And those are people that you're better than that, Becca. You don't need those people.
Yeah. When I heard like everything that happened between them, I was like, oh, she like really hurt one of them. And I was like, even if I was trying to hurt this girl, like, that is something that I would never do.
Yeah.
And it was really like, I was almost proud of myself. If it sounds a little stupid, but like that I still had that empathy for her.
No, that doesn't sound stupid. I mean, I feel like sometimes there's a little nice feeling inside, and then there's the human being that's like, I knew it, I told you. But then you move past that, and you're a human with empathy and a kindness, and then you say, I'm sorry that happened to you.
That's really how I felt. I was like, I can't believe this happened, and like, as your friend, like, you should never do something like that. It was like, I don't know what their relationship is with her now, but I know it's not good.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you've had closure from this, or how do you think you will be able to get that for yourself?
Thank you for asking that, producer Steph. That's a very good question.
I think that closure for me is impossible because it still exists. It can't, like, as much as I like to pretend that people are dead, they aren't actually dead, right? So I think that closure is really, really difficult, especially because this is still a band that I love. And like every time I go to these shows, I'm reminded of, these people that I cared so much about that, really hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
And that is difficult to deal with. And I see death as like the ultimate closure because you can't, like, we haven't figured out how to talk to the other side unless you are really good with a Ouija board, which I am not.
I got a lady for you who can talk to the other side, but that's another show.
We'll talk about it off mic. But I think that like closure, it's really accepting and processing and accepting the fact that there is no closure, like no real closure, the way that like I might want it. But there's definitely a closing of the door. It's not like cemented over, or whatever, because you can't really do that. But it might be like a glass door or something.
Well, especially with social media, it is a glass door because they're going to show up in your world, in your ecosystem somewhere.
Yeah, and that's the part that I'm still managing and like trying to figure out, resisting the urge to like scroll. It helps that I'm blocked by a couple of people, so I can't look even if I want to. But there were points where I was like, I want to be as awful to them as they were to me, and I want to try and ruin their lives. But like, that doesn't make it better for me.
It doesn't.
And so that train of thought really went away really quickly. And I just realized that focusing on making it so that I look at that door as little as possible and am enticed to open it as little as possible is really the only way to keep going.
Yeah, it is.
It's something that like me and my therapist are working through. So,
well, I'm glad you have that person there for you on the journey, because it does sound like it got dark at some points. And I'm glad that you came to share this with us.
I do want to say, because you said closure is impossible, and I don't think that's true. I think it's just a different kind of closure. Like your closure is going to be when you no longer feel a responsibility for how other people perceive your actions or who you are.
No, that's why Steph is a producer on this podcast, because she just came in here and summed that shit up so nicely. Well done, Steph.
That's so true. I think like for me, closure is like, when I think of ultimate closure, I think of when my metric is when someone dies. But
that's not real closure. That's just them being dead. You have to deal with them being dead after that. So even though they're dead, that's not closure.
Maybe the way that I deal with death is unhealthy too.
That thankfully you have a person to help you work through that. And that's, that is ultimately like one of the most important things, is that everyone has, when you need it, a person that you can go to. I don't care if you have to pay them to support you. Like that's helpful. Full stop.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing the story. This was just such a wonderful chat.
Yeah.
About a hard topic.
Yeah, but
I always feel weird saying this is a wonderful chat when we talk about hard things, but it was a wonderful chat because it's, in my opinion, it's good to talk about hard things.
I agree.
Pretending they don't exist doesn't help.
Very, very, very true.
Just like pretending people are dead.
Does not help.
Agenda
item for next week's therapy.
Literally making a note right now, agenda item for next week's therapy.
And by the way, let's talk about first impressions. In relationships, friendships, love, or work, people tell you who they are right from the start. So it's important that you listen. If you are seeing red flags, or you have that, nagging voice inside you, moments where you say to yourself, that was weird, pay attention. It doesn't mean you have to leave the person or end the relationship, but just make sure that you're putting some boundaries in place, or you're on the lookout for hurtful behavior. Because I'm going to say it, you deserve to be treated well in all of your relationships. Gosh darn it. All right, it's that time where we're going to get a little advice from our expert of the day. Joining us today is Patricia. She's a psychologist in New York, and she may or may not have helped me a lot. Let's hear what she has to say.
I think friendships can go as deeply as romantic relationships. So it's not a question of one being more important or one being more powerful than the other. Any kind of relationship that lands deeply within can cause enormous pain when there's a sort of a breakup or a rupture. It's a very, very tough place, and you have to scramble to find people who may not be your friends yet, but with whom there is some kind of a bias toward trust. You can always find more anonymous groups of like-minded people who are open to sharing and listening. Everybody's here to do the same thing, which is talk about their pain. So that's what I'm going to do here. You know, trust is a funny thing. It's a funny concept. One question that I would ask is, what is it you're seeing now about this person that you didn't see then? Well, they're late for everything. Okay, well, that's an important something or other. I don't know if it's a red flag, but it's a behavior that you might want to think about. Or they lied to me, but only once. Well, wait a minute. Nobody lies only once. So, self-knowledge will allow a kind of an ability to judge or assess objectively the person you're thinking about. And if you learn as you go along that so far this person is trustworthy, then you can go just a little bit further. But you don't start out expecting to trust. You start out seeing how it goes one step at a time. We always need to know what our takeaway is. What did I learn from this situation? Yeah, so I learned that these people were, assholes, or I learned that you can't trust anybody. But wait a minute. What did you learn about yourself? What did you bring to the table? Because we co-create everything that we participate in. And we're not victims. And it's important to see, okay, someone may have hurt me, someone may have even attacked me, someone may have been a total freak with me. But we always come back to take a look, what was my participation? Did I miss some signals? Or more likely, did I alienate someone by, I don't know what? Just think about what I brought to the table.
That's some good stuff from Patricia. And I have to tell you, Patricia also said, I would like you to realize that you create your own lives. No one else has the right answer for you, and no one else has that responsibility. You have both the responsibility and the privilege or the right to make your own choices and to learn your own lessons in this lifetime. I mean, are those words to live by or what? All right, folks, that's a wrap on this little episode. But before we go, I do want to say many, many, many thanks to Becca for sharing her friendship journey with us. And of course, thank you to our expert of the day, Patricia. For more Robin, and you may need that, you probably don't need it, but if you do, you can follow me at Real Rob Hops on all the platforms, all the socials, as the kids today say. Well Adjusting is an Edit Audio original, exec produced by Steph Colburn and Robin Hopkins. Thank you to Maria Passingham, Kathleen Speckert, and the whole Edit Audio team. Oh, hey, before you take out those AirPods, this show is just for entertainment. If you are in need of help, please, please, please reach out to a professional. Go ahead and get that help. You deserve it.